The Mount Panorama circuit at Bathurst is often deemed scary and difficult enough in modern race cars. These are cars with safety, traction, and control far superior to the machinery of 50 years ago. And yet, 50-year-old F1 cars are getting ready to tackle this beast. The drivers in this series are certainly a special breed. You'll get to find out just what kind of insanity these brave souls crave as we get ready to watch Round 8 of the Lotus 49 World Cup. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Johan Vandenbelt. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Johan, welcome back. Glad to have you back in the booth. And of all things for you to return to, we've got one of the most daunting circuits on the iRacing service.
Yeah, I don't envy the drivers out there today because they have a big task on their hands. Navigating the Australian mountain is difficult in any car, like you say, but in the Lotus 49 it surely is something special. Now, a bit about the track. Mount Panorama circuit was built all the way back in 1938. Historically, the 6.2 kilometer track has been used for a wide variety of racing categories, like the famous Australian or V8 supercars, but also for motorcycle and open wheel racing. The track isn't a permanent circuit, and during the week when there's no race days you can actually drive around it in both directions. And if you do, just watch out, they do control the speed limit. And nowadays the track usually features closed bodied race cars, so seeing the open wheels today on track is quite special. And a particular corner I will keep my eye on today is the dipper just after the top of the hill, where the cars plunge down towards Forest Elbow. Don't be surprised to see one or several wheels off the ground at that part of the track, or if the drivers make a mistake, in the wall. Now, Bathurst guarantees excitement with any car, not only for the viewers and commentators, but also for the drivers. And to see what kind of excitement the drivers will face today, let's hop on board the GSRC LOTUS 49 for a lap around Mount Panorama.
Alright, we're in the GSRC LOTUS 49, so let's do a lap around Bathurst. Coming down to Hell Corner, it's incredibly critical that you don't outbrake yourself into this bend. Being able to get to the power early out of that first turn will affect your lap time greatly as you climb up the mountain straight. Not to mention, a good exit will help protect you from an attack. Now, over the hill, the car tends to pull left if you shift into fifth. Let it bounce off the limiter and shift up after the hump. After that, you'll be braking uphill into Griffin's Bend, so get the car to the left and put out the anchors. Being smooth to the power will pay off since you'll be turning and accelerating out of here. Something easier said than done. Switch sides quickly, and as we come up to the cutting, remember that not being able to brake in a straight line will mean you've got to lift to ease into this double apex corner. Try to really line the car up for the exit. The line through Quarry isn't quite flat out, but swing wide because you'll need the entire track over the rise into Reed Park. From here, treat all those little kinks in the track as one long arc. You'll be feathering the throttle through Frog Hollow and eventually Salmon Park. Just as you come over the rise, tap the brakes and turn in early to get the car to grip through McPhillamy Park. Get on the power briefly, bring the car to the left, and then try your best to brake as the car gets light over Skyline. You'll be slowing and steering your way through these steep downhill S's, hopefully managing to line your car up for the dipper. From there, you'll get another little squirt of the gas across the top of the mountain before you find yourself braking for the frustrating Forest Elbow. The drop tends to make it hard to slow the car up. Just like Hell Corner, the best traction acceleration is what you're really aiming for. We're now on the opposite side from before, blasting down the Conrod Straight. But the Lotus is so fast and powerful that staying on the throttle can sometimes send the car out of sorts over the big crest. Letting off the 80% throttle doesn't really lose you any time and keeps the car safe. Then comes the infamous chase. Tap the brakes, turn it in, then bring the car to the right as you really stop the binders. This is easily going to be one of the most popular overtaking spots. The track rises, making it tough to get back to the power quickly. Once you've got it fully down though, you're heading towards Murray's Corner. The 49 can take that inside curve better than most cars, but for the ideal run, try not to clobber it. Hopefully you kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Bathurst.
That should give you an idea how narrow and how hilly it is up and down the mountain. Now, as we wait for qualifying to take place, let's take a quick glance at the points championship, starting with the F1 championship. This is the one everybody wants to win. Now, David Gaspers is leading. However, I do not believe he is here today. In fact, no, he is not. And that is another drop week for him, except he's out of drop weeks. So that's going to be a 0 for him there that you will score today, which will help Gary Teal, who is here with his win last week. He's now up to 9 points. Dimitrios Huduludi also has been having trouble with attendance, and that's why he's farther down. Dave Price as well hasn't been showing up as much as he could have, and otherwise he's had consistency on his side when he does show up. Michel Dudignon is the opposite. He's been showing up this season, but hasn't been getting good results. Mistakes and very low finishes has cost him better points. Hence why we've got a very unusual points tally so far this season. Let's look over at the F2 though. Johan, what are we looking in the Amateur Championship?
Yeah, the F2 Championship is a little bit further apart than the Formula 1 Championship. It still sees Matt Wright in his home GP on top there with 99 points. Now he's currently being chased by Hideki Koifiso, only 5 points behind is the Finnish driver. Don Good is doing quite good so far this season, 29 points only behind Matt Wright. And the American driver, his best single result this season so far is an 8th place. He'll be trying to improve that out there today on the mountain. Robert Reynolds is currently in 4th position, a little bit behind his rival, and he's probably looking to that P5 position because look at Andrew Eng. He gained 3 positions by finishing 7th last time around, and Andrew Eng is surely looking up the table.
Also follow the Nations Cup. It's a Constructors' Championship in this series. Let's take a glance at where those points sit. Now the UK up there with a lot of drivers contributing, and Gary Thiel, of course, with his win, jumps up the US into 2nd position. Marko Kika, Finland, we noted last round, typically doesn't show as well in this series. Well, Marko's making sure that that has changed, up 2 positions for them. Now, Germany and Greece were doing very well at the start of the season, but because Gaspers and Houdeludi are the ones that are typically contributing there, and they haven't been showing up as much, well, they're dropping down the order, unfortunately. And in case we have viewers who have not watched the Lotus 49 World Cup, what are we looking at for the race today here, Johan?
Yeah, the Lotus 49 World Cup, it's a 12-round season, and we're at round 8 today here in Australia. 2 watermarks, that means that there are 2 drop weeks. As we've mentioned before, some people are already out of the drop weeks, so it's essential for them to score points and as much as possible. The race distance today, only 16 laps. That will take the drivers around 30-35 minutes, and they use open setups to tackle the mountain. That means they can turn the knobs, change all the settings just to their liking. You can see the scoring down below. You get 40 points for winning the race out there today, Joe.
If you like this racing action, don't forget that you can find even more of it over on the iRacing Esports Network. They have all the official iRacing racing coverage over there. So all the world championships that you love, both on the dirt and pavement side, definitely go and subscribe there and get lots more great stuff here on iRacing. Now, we are looking at the qualifying at the moment. Michel Dudignon trying to make up for his bad results yet again. Qualifying hasn't really been his issue, though, so far this season, and he's managed to put it on top. The guy that's come back after a bit of a few rounds not showing up, Mick Claridge, has returned here, Johan, so this should be an interesting one if these two manage not to have an issue like they had at Sebring, where they clattered into one another.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's hope that that doesn't happen. And I have to say, Mick Claridge, like, you're looking at the championship schedule, and especially with last season in mind, to see Mick Claridge not there in the top 5, that's something alien to see. You think there's something wrong with the standings. So it's good to see the Englishman once again on top. He's currently almost 1/10 behind the French driver. I do have to say, looking at the practice time of earlier today, Michel Dudignon has been quick. He even put a sub 2-minute time there. So he's trying to get 1.5 tenths more from his lap time to get in those 1:50 laps.
This is Ove Trangrade. He sits in 4th at the moment. This will be his 2nd timed lap. Let's see what he does. He does go faster at a 2:01 flat, and that bumps him up into 3rd, 1 position forward. Now, one driver that I am also noticing, we tend to see specialists. Oh, and now he messes up his 2nd lap. We aren't watching him. This is Matt Wright coming across, who is a fellow Australian. But Ben Zocco was the one that I was watching, just messed it up coming into the dipper. Even still, without this 2nd lap, he's got it up to 4th. He has found a whole hunk of speed at this track.
It is his home GP, if I'm correct, or at least he is
yes,
Australian.
it is.
So he probably wants to do well here. But as you say, he had quite a bit of difficulty on the mountain. Went right, went sideways through Solomon Park, Mefenley Park, Skyline, and then just looped it around the dipper. And that mountain, Joe, it's so difficult in this car. I doubt we will see any overtaking there, because in this car it's just so much of a handful. Once you get even a half a meter offline, and you're just sliding all over the place to keep it out of the wall there.
Hideki Koivisto is currently sitting in 14th position. His second lap does not improve, off by a 10th. 14th is all he can hope for. And I believe the only driver we have left to do their second lap is Paul Beatty. And he does not have enough time left. That's one of the downfalls of this track. That is so long, you don't necessarily always have enough time to finish 2 laps. So let's go through the order. Mick Claridge did steal the pole away from Michel Dudignon when we weren't looking. And Michel going to flank him on that front row. Ove Trangarade will be starting in 3rd with Ben Zocco on the outside of row 2 and 4th. Nicola Cocci will be 5th with Gary Thiel in 6th position. Billy Bob Wright starts P7. Marco Kika a little bit farther down here at the start of this one. Going to be hard to get on the podium for him, starting from 8th. Michael Berg, let's see if he can make a climb as well like he did last week. He'll be P9. And then top 10 rounded out by Matt Wright.
Double 1 position is Keith Wheeler. He starts 11th and he's being flanked by Andrew Eng. Don Good starts the race in 13th and he's just in front of Hideki Koivisto. Stefan Lemaire starts the race in 15th position, just 2/10 in front of Telmo Amaral. Johnny Bell can be found in P17 and he's on row 9 together with Giacomo Angeli. And in the last row, row 10 today, Paul Beatty starts in 19th and Alexandre Costa didn't manage to set the time, so he starts in 20th.
Cars are now out there lining up on the grid. The key word for this one probably going to be survival. Drivers will want to try and just get to the end and keep their car in one piece. Passing going to be a little bit difficult up on the mountain, but there are opportunities elsewhere, up and down, heading on the mountain straight and heading down into the chase. Of course, there we see Mick Claridge and his beautiful paint scheme that he's now adopted to mimic his real car. UK&I driver hasn't been winning as much as we're used to seeing this season. Michael Berg has impressed us last round at a chaotic track such as Monza. This one tends to put on a little bit of chaos, to see if he can repeat the feat. Just waiting for Keith Wheeler and Alexandre Costa to bring their cars out, and then we will go green here for round 8 of the Lotus 49 World Cup. Cars are revving their engines, lights are up. Green flag is out here for the Lotus 49 World Cup, and off the line, it's a great start for Mick Claridge as he immediately gets it single file ahead of Michel. A few cars side by side through Hell Corner, but otherwise, not a whole lot of action in that first turn.
Gary Thiel had a great start. He immediately put it side by side with Nicola Cocci in turn 1, but on the outside he couldn't make it stick. He has to stay behind the Italian 4 now. Billy Bob Wright behind him gets a good run, but not enough to try and move here onto the mountain.
The Griffin's Bend, pretty much everybody's single file. They know the game from here across the top of the mountain. Nobody really trying anything risky early on. 16 laps around this track here today. Through Quarry, now they swing it. And this car always one that doesn't tend to like bumps as well, Johan. And I think that's honestly what makes it that much more tricky around here.
Yeah, oh, we see Gary Thiel. Gary Thiel has a problem. He's very slow, probably hit the wall. Yeah, he hit the wall quite hard.
And I think that we'll get back to that in a bit. That looked like that was coming up into Frog Hollow, just glanced the wall, and that sent him over. And Michael Berg has had an issue in the dipper as well. So a couple of cars having issues. Been a bad couple of weeks for Johnny Bell. He gets it going again, thankfully did not damage the car too hard. But back up at the front, we got a battle for the lead. Mick Claridge under threat from Michel Dudignon.
That's probably the place where you want to be, with the King slightly going to the right. The Frenchman has more overdrive, but the Englishman can get more speed, also a little bit more courageous. The Frenchman didn't expect that. He leaves him for one turn more. Stays in second place. He has one more try here. Going to Maurice corner. He can maybe send it on the inside now. He brakes a little bit later, but not enough to beat Mick Claridge there for P1.
It's only the end of lap 1, so not willing to risk it. Might have noticed the trees moving around quite a bit, and it's 14 miles an hour wind on track at the moment. So that could be throwing a few drivers for a loop. Let's go to the replay of Gary Thiel. Just coming up over the crest. I think this is where, I think he clips the right-hand side here, Johan.
Yeah, and you can see it here in the replay. He just loses it when that happens. And we were telling about it earlier in the broadcast. Once that car goes when you're on the mountain, it's so difficult to catch it. It's basically a one-way ticket towards the wall. He just bounces off it, and he's lucky to not swing it in front of the other cars and cause a big pile up there.
Now we're going to see what happened to Berg. I didn't quite catch. I just saw his car stopped after here, up over Skyline, right before the dipper. Oh, just lost it under braking.
It's so easy to do.
Yeah, that is tough with how downhill it is, and that's exactly where the leaders are going through now. And it's not just Claridge and Dudignon. They've been caught by Tranquerade.
Don't spun. Really good that he kept it out of the wall there. He was caught out by Andrew Eng, who got very loose on top of the mountain. Almost had to brake to not take Andrew Eng out. And he's staying now, waiting for all the other cars to pass by. I don't think he has any damage. He's returning now to the race.
Great job by Good. Meanwhile, Nicola Cocci trying to chase down Billy Bob Wright. This is for a top 5. Early in the race, we're already seeing attrition and mistakes cause costly results.
For P1, Dudignon tries it in the chase, almost side by side with McLaren. He's a lot closer now towards the last corner than he was last time. He takes a look on the inside, brakes a little bit later. McLaren sees it coming, takes it wide around the outside, but it cost him too much. Michel Dudignon sends it on the inside, and now he has the preferred advantage for the next corner. Michel Dudignon to P1.
Oh, but Mick isn't giving up. Oh, and now finally into hell. He has to back out of it. He's going to get this slipstream. Is he going to try and return the favor up into Griffin's Bend? The popcorn position held by the Scandinavian behind them. Ove Tranquerade side by side now. Up and over the hump of the mountain straight. That is not easy. You can see the cars dancing around. Claridge going to be on the outside into Griffin's Bend. He slides a little bit wide. Keeps it out of the tire barriers, but that for sure gives it over to Dudignon now.
And he's lucky that Ove Tranquerade also started to slide in Griffin's Bend, because otherwise he would have lost 2 positions there.
Incredible stuff from our leaders, and these 3 are streaking away from the next car back. It's 4 seconds to the Australian Ben Zoko. Ooh, and Claridge is struggling a little bit as he's trying to find his footing. Wonder if maybe he's overheated the tires slightly.
Close to the wall there, but yeah, it might be that he overheated his tires a little bit. I think that Michel Dudignon is loving to see that in his rear view mirror, because if the British driver is struggling like it seems he's doing, the French driver Dudignon can try to make a gap going down the mountain here. We can see on board, look at those hands moving left to right of Ove Tranquerade. Seeing both his rivals trying on a look there on the inside, not making it stick to Forrest Elbow.
They come down the Conrad straight now. They stretch apart. Dudignon's got it out to 0.7 of a second. Tranquerade holding on to the back of Claridge, at least, is his hopes for getting higher onto the podium. Wow, Claridge took a lot of curb there. Oh no, and he's off track. Can he get it woed up in time? There's a big gravel trap. Thankfully, he keeps it out of the wall. Ove got that one easily.
Yeah, we can go on board here. He lost a lot of time. Benjamin Soko and P4 didn't manage to pass him, but you can see here, and it's such easy to hang it in the wall there. He's lucky to keep it out of the wall and just hit the gravel and be able to continue.
Well, this is an unusual amount of mistakes from Mick Claridge that we've seen. Let's see if he can get the car back up. He's lost about 3 seconds on second place Ove Tranquerade, who's now giving chase on Dudignon. A little bit farther back, we popped our heads in on Billy Bob Wright and Cocci earlier. Billy Bob Wright is still ahead of the Italian for now.
He actually made a move on the Italian a few laps ago, but he's not able to drive away from Cocci so far. They're very close together, and I don't think we'll see an overtake here on the mountain. Another battle that is starting to heat up is for P9. Hideko Koifisto is being put under pressure by Andrew Eng. Andrew Eng is an interesting driver out there today because he has lost that position to Hideko Koifisto at the start because Andrew Eng is struggling. He's sliding a lot around the place. He's able to maybe braking a little bit too late and just losing control of his car. He lost position to Koifisto like that, and he also caused indirectly Don Good to spin because of that. Billy Bob has lost the position on the mountain.
Wow.
The skyline, Nicola Cocci got him.
You're going to watch the replay. Not often you're going to see something like this, and this was just braveness from the Italian as he stuck a nose in, and Billy Bob was not willing to try and tussle with him coming up the skyline. So through McPhillamy, he let him through.
Billy Bob had a little bit of an off moment there and had to go through the grass, and he just lost so much speed there that Nicola Cocci got the overdrive for skyline.
So you mentioned Andrew Eng sliding his car around. This is definitely not a track that you want to overdrive.
Stefan Lemaire in Forest Elbow just hit the wall. Ooh, and he almost took out Telmo Amaral there. Both drivers seem to be able to continue. Lemaire losing one position. To go to replay here of that incident, you can see the blue car going down the mountain. There's one more braking zone to go, and he just loses it. Car slips around from the back. Soft touch with the wall, and you can see the red car there.
Always got
Brazilian
on 3.
The Spanish driver of Almiral getting through and winning one position, but he's immediately being put under pressure once again by Stefan Lemaire, who wants that P11 position back.
Yeah, he's trying all he can, that's for sure. As they come around the final corner. Now, one we haven't watched is Marco Kika, who's got himself up to 7th since the start of this race, and he's already looking on Billy Bob Wright after the Floridian lost his position to Cocci. In fact, he's losing ground to Cocci ever since he's gotten by. We now ride on the nose of Kika, the Finn, coming off of a podium last week, probably riding a bit of a high.
Maybe, just talking about Billy Bob, maybe with the mistake that he had last lap, because of which he lost the position to Cocci, it maybe hurt his confidence a little bit. He's maybe taking a little bit more care on the mountain now, and then losing a bit of speed as a result of that, because Marco Kika wasn't this much faster than the Australian at the beginning part of the race. The Finnish driver is putting Billy Bob more and more under pressure, while Cocci is disappearing from the side.
We don't have to go to it, but an update. Don Good cut the chicane at the chase and then immediately pulled it into the pits. Not sure if he sustained damage earlier on in the lap, but he has been sitting in there for quite a while now.
I just want to give an update on the championship battle. Gary Thiel, we saw him of course have problems early in the race, and that had big championship implications because he is fighting for that position in the championship. He's currently back on track again. He's driving around the P18. He's not one lap down. He's trying to move his way towards and close the gap towards Johnny Bell and gain a few positions and profit from the attrition of other drivers.
That is what a champion does out here as we continue to watch Billy Bob Wright, and as he tries to keep from losing more positions. Again, that is Marco Kika right up behind him. Tries to get the power down, but the tail wags on the car. Doesn't lose too much. The slipstream's going to help him as well. Over the crest they go. Then into the uphill braking. A little bit too far back. Could have been an opportunity. Oh, a little bit wide through the first part of Griffin's Bend, but Billy Bob Wright again does not lose out. Both drivers a little bit erratic out here.
Yeah, it's difficult. They probably want to keep as much speed as possible. Marco Kika wants to make that move as soon as possible. While Billy Bob Wright wants to close the gap once again to Nicola Cocci because he was driving in that P5 position.
Ooh, might see a change of position down in 11th as Telmo Amaral is... Oh, and he's actually going to lift and let Stefan Lemaire go on by.
Keith Wheeler is probably liking that because he's not that far behind, and if the Iberian driver slowed down a little bit more, he would have been able to make a move for the P12 position. These three drivers are actually close together, all within 2 seconds of a second between them. Amaral have a bad corner there. Keith Wheeler almost took a look on the inside there at the beginning of the mountain.
Yeah, he was a lot stronger heading into the cutting, that's for sure. And Wheeler, another Club Australia and New Zealand driver that's come out here to try and take on the mountain and this Lotus 49. We almost always get at least a couple newcomers or one-offs when this track shows up on the schedule for this series.
Andrew Eng just almost lost the car once again in Forest Elbow. He tried to move on Hideki Koivisto. Just barely kept it out of the wall once again. The driver has lost a bit of track position now to the Finnish driver. I have the feeling that Andrew Eng is quicker and is vying for that P9 position. And you can see it in the last lap time as well. He's 1/10 quicker, and I almost think that he's only 1/10 quicker because Hideki Koivisto is in the way and he's not able to overtake his rival yet.
Keith Wheeler did get by the car of Telmo Amaral, but it was just like before. Telmo had a big lift, this time on the Conrad straight. I think he's not really concerned on trying to make too many battles. Oh, Giacomo apparently had a bit of an issue. Is this in the dipper once again? Oh, Skyline bit him.
Yeah. Oh, that's a hard one. His car bounced up quite a bit in the air there as we go on board with the crash.
His car lacking downforce. We can come over a crest like this. The grip goes away. Brakes don't work as well. The wall does, though.
Yeah, the wall certainly stopped it.
Well, we haven't... go ahead.
No, I wanted to say all the way up front, Michel de Leon is not under pressure of McLaren anymore, and he's enjoying that. In the meantime, he's driven away almost 3.5 seconds too over Trangerate. I think the French driver is just disappearing on the horizon. McLaren in the meantime, last time around he was a little bit quicker than over Trangerate, around 4/10. So he's trying to close the gap to the Norwegian driver. And I don't think McLaren is quick enough to beat the French driver if the French driver of de Leon doesn't make a mistake.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking at as well, though since we hadn't put our eyes on the leaders in quite a while. Got to be frustrating for Mick Claridge, considering he's pretty much out of the championship at this point, just wants to come in and get wins and try to reassert his dominance. But Dudignan, we mentioned, is down in 5th in the championship, so not completely out of it, especially if drivers such as Gaspers continue to not show up out here. And Gary Thiel obviously going to lose some points today unless Michel Dudignan also falls victim, which would not be out of character for how he's been driving this season. The Frenchman has lost most of his with errors and just tangling with other cars out on track, sliding him out of the points or way down in the points.
Strange incident last time around. Billy Bob lost the position to Marco Kika, but that was on basically the straight after Forest Elbow towards the chase. Billy Bob was overtaking, was lapping Don Good and had to hit the grass to avoid him, or maybe he saw him a little bit too late. But in the end, Marco Kika got past the Australian driver and is currently in P6.
On screen, we're watching the fight between the Finn of... Oh no, Ove Trankerade has an issue up at the top of the mountain. And this is another case where just the slightest of mistakes sent him into the wall. Oh no. From second place to what could be a DNF. I think he got maybe just a little bit of grass here.
He hit the curb some before quite hard, and that might have maybe stabilized or like unstabilized his car in such a way that he didn't anticipate it.
And Mick's had one as well. Oh, and that's clogged things up actually on the mountain. Oh no! It was Johnny Bell. Johnny Bell had wrecked in front of him.
Yeah, and he just couldn't avoid it. It was just before Forest Elbow. Now that's a blind corner. You cannot see the cars standing in the middle of the road there. Of course, they're yellow flags, but you don't expect the car to be there. Mick Claridge just couldn't avoid him. He's standing in the pits at the moment.
Yeah, this will give a great view here, riding on his nose. Just how much of a surprise it is, because it's not just you're coming around that blind corner, but that's a crest there too. He could even see over the crest to see that red car stopped.
Heartbreaking. Yeah, so that means that over triangulate Mick Claris and Johnny Bell, we lose 3 drivers like that in 1 lap. Now, what does that mean for the standings? It still is Michel Dunillon in first place. Benjamin Soko gets promoted to P2. Nicola Cocci is currently in P3.
I have to imagine the heart inside the chest of the driver of that number 6 car, Ben Zoko, probably beating pretty hard now, thinking about getting a podium on a home circuit. Not something you can often do here on iRacing. Only 3 tracks out here in Australia that you can race on.
I would almost say the same of Billy Bob. Billy Bob is probably hitting himself because he was in front of Cocci and Kika. Currently he's behind both drivers, only in P5, but he could have held that P3 position at his home track.
Boy, attrition has been gobbling them up. Costa is gone. Berg, Angeli, Bell. Good has gotten his car back out there, but there's a host of drivers in front of him that are sitting in the pits. Lemaire, Trangrade, and Claridge. Teal, just in front of them, has gotten his car back out, which we mentioned. He's running in 12th, and that's exactly why he brought his car back out. That is going to at least be a decent number of points to add to his tally.
Keith Wheeler had problem in Forest Elbow this time around. He hit that wall quite hard. He just lost control, smacked the wall, but he didn't take a tow. He actually drove to the pits to try and repair his car and get out there because, as you said, Joe, attrition is high at the moment. Just by continuing, you might actually win some extra positions. And you can see it there on screen. Yeah. Hard hit there. I doubt that he'll be able to return to the track. At least for a few laps, his mechanics will be busy.
Forest Elbow seems to be one of the danger zones here today, unfortunately, for the drivers. As that was happening, Billy Bob Wright had a go at Marco Kika, but it didn't go off into the chase. You can see he's still close to the gearbox of that number 7. He's going to get a good opportunity if he can get the launch out of Hell Corner. I don't think it's going to be quite enough, though, for the Floridian.
It seems to be a little bit too far behind. Now another battle that's heating up. They're currently in the last corner. Hideki Corfisto and Andrew Eng. Andrew Eng had another look this time around. This time in the chase. Wasn't able to make that pass this time. Going towards turn 1 now. It also a little bit like the same story. He's a little bit too far behind to make a move in turn 1 or up there in Griffith's Point.
Definitely want to utilize these straights in these cars with the, even though it might not seem likely, they punch a decent hole in the air. They're very streamlined on the front of the car, but the back of it is all kinds of messy with that engine just exposed, which causes turbulence and allows you to really gain on long straights when they start to get some speed up. And we see them work their way through the cutting, now up into quarry. And you can get a sense of how narrow it is with these walls right up on either side as we ride on board with Andrew Ang.
And he's looking, Hideki Corfisto got really close there to the wall, kept it out of it. There's no position here, going over the bump towards Skyline. You can maybe, if you're a little bit closer and if you're very courageous, you can try a look here on the inside, but it's too far now. You have to just settle, brake, go down the gears, set yourself up for the dipper here because there's no room for different racing lines. Just follow the other car until you're at Forest Elbow. Try to have a good exit and try it there on the back straight.
And Ang is staying right in the tire tracks of that yellow and black Lotus 49. Visto with a decent run, but Ang with a very good one. And down the hill as they pick up speed. Going to get close to 200 miles an hour. Hitting 185, 190 miles an hour before they break here for the chase. And he's just a little bit too far back yet again. He's going to close in pretty tight up to the rear of that car. Can he maybe get him down into Murray's, Johan?
I don't think so. He had a slightly poorer exit than Corfisto there. And I think that in Murray's, Corfisto at least is safe. Now there's 2 more corners to go before you're back on the mountain. You're kind of safe from the text there. Going here now towards Hell. I think N is a little bit too far behind Joe to make a move here. He needs a good exit out of Hell towards Griffith's Bend. And once again, it seems that Hideki Corfisto might be a little bit better on acceleration on this track, while Andrew Eng is just really good on the mountain and able to close the gap there.
Which has got to be frustrating for Ang, as we've shown it multiple times now. It's just very difficult to try and overtake once you get past here. You're just kind of stuck behind the car ahead. So unfortunately for the Midwesterner, he's just going to have to stay patient and wait for something, wait for a mistake where he's got a better opportunity. So for now, these two stuck in a stalemate.
Just a quick update, because one driver that just entered the top 10 is Gary Thiel, the championship contestant. Was all the way in P18, and he has profited so much from all the attrition out there on track. He's just behind Paul Beatty, only 2 seconds. I think that Gary Thiel will be able to make a move on Paul Beatty to actually get P9 out there today.
And you know, Johan, I don't think all hope is lost for Thiel, because even though Dudignon has a 17-second lead.
Sorry, Marco Kika just had Billy Bob on the inside. Billy Bob just brakes too late, not able to make it stick. And he loses a lot of track position there to the Finnish driver. Good move though there in chase. Not able to brake on time and get his car slowed down on time. And he has to bite his moments a little bit longer. Make sure that he gets back to the rear of the Finnish driver and try it one more time.
Smart stuff from the Finn. Just basically pulled over when he saw him coming, let him blow the turn, and then took it right back. That gives 4th place back to the number 7 car as we see them climb up the mountain. But what I was talking about before the action started to explode, Michel Dudignon with that 17-second lead. My mind goes back to Monaco, back with Ayrton Senna. You can't get too complacent, especially at a track like this. I don't think this race is over by any means.
Exactly. I've seen enough times on iRacing that people you would think that they were easy drying in for the champagne, just bottled it in the final part of the race, and especially when you're on Bathurst, especially when you're here where basically every corner can kill you and destroy your race. You just have to be completely focused. And, flowers at the finish, my father always says, and I think that's 100% the case for Bathurst.
I like that phrase. As we watch the Frenchman swing that number 1 car down towards the chase. The closest battle anymore, because of Billy Bob Wright's mistake, has now been left for 7th place. That's Koivisto and Ang. And these two, within half a second, haven't been able to get away from one another. Ang still stuck behind that Bitten and Hiss's car.
Paul Beatty got overtaken last time around by Gary Thiel. And also another driver that had some problems and is out on track again is Don Good. He's currently in 12th position, 1 lap behind the car in front, Telmo Amaral. But Don Good is continuing his run there because he's doing quite well on the Formula 2 championship. And all these positions that he will overtake, that he will get because of the attrition, will help him there.
Amaral with the damage on the front that he got from clattering the wall, thankfully not on the suspension of the car, and you can see on the Conrod straight now between Ang and Koivisto. Boy, Ang was incredibly close into Forrest's elbow, but just something the way that he's driving this car, the way the car is set up, he can't seem to get off the corners.
No, exactly, and that will hurt him because you can get close in the mountain, but because there's no overtaking opportunity, you just cannot gain that position, and he really needs to have that better drive out of the corners and maybe try to put to force Hideki Koivisto into a mistake to really overtake the Finn. But maybe this was something that Andrew Ang wasn't thinking about when he set up his car, because in qualifying he was almost a second quicker than Koivisto. Maybe he just anticipated that he would be in front of him in the whole race and would be able to drive away from him. But like you say, Joe, the way his car is set up, he's not able to make that move stick.
Gets close yet again under braking, but way wide through Griffin's Bend. Little too hot into there is going to cost him multiple tenths. Let's see. This will give us a really good idea of how much quicker he is up and over the mountain, as he's now dropped a decent gap to that car ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And it would be curious to see once they hit Forrest's elbow if Andrew Ang once again is on the tail of Hideki Koivisto, looking at him now going towards Skyline Family Park. He seems to be a little bit quicker than him. It seems to be that the Finnish driver is getting closer and closer. But yeah, like we said, on the mountain you don't make the overtakes. You really need the quickness in the straights and on the flat part of the circuit.
Well, he is definitely gaining, especially through the S's into the dipper. Ooh, a little, he keeps coming into these corners a little hot. And I wonder if that's what's causing him to have these bad exits. Way wide at Forrest's elbow once again for Koivisto. That time it looked like it almost interrupted the momentum of Andrew Ang, and once again denies him. But from 7/10 back down to 3/10 by the time they come down off the top.
He was a second quicker in qualifying, and we can see why Andrew Ang was quicker in qualifying. He's doing really good so far, but we're praising Andrew Ang. We also have to praise Hideki Koivisto because he's defending quite well. He knows exactly where to be quick, where to focus, and where not to make mistakes to keep his rival behind him. He's doing that quite well. With only 3 more laps to go, he's defending the P7 position with 2-0.
Now, you might notice sometimes on the timing and scoring that behind this battle is Gary Thiel, but don't get too excited because Thiel is a whole 54 seconds back. So unless someone finds the wall, which isn't unheard of, obviously, Thiel's unlikely to gain any more spots just by overtaking cars. He will probably have to settle for that 9th position.
All the way on the front, Michel Dudillon has increased the gap to Benjamin Soko by 20.5 seconds. The French driver can just really slow down and just focus on not making any mistakes, and he'll just come home dry for that victory. Benjamin Soko is currently trying to lap, I think it's Telman Almaral just in front of him on Forrest's elbow. He cannot lose too much time though, because only 2.5 seconds behind him is Nicola Cocci. I've been looking at the lap times a little bit, Joe, and it seems that Nicola Cocci is quicker on average, except that he makes a few mistakes. He has some laps out there that he's like half a tenth slower suddenly, or 1 second slower, and that's hurting him so far. Because if he was a little bit more consistent, he probably would have been able to really close the gap to Soko and try and move for the P2 position. Just
saw it on screen there. He was way off the apex of the chase. And that's going to keep him from being able to attack. And he's running out of laps to do it as we're down to only 2 to go.
Andrew Ang once more time tried it on the inside of Forrest's elbow. Tried a look, but this time both cars didn't slide and didn't interrupt one's momentum. And now we can see if the different driving line of Andrew Ang will help him. He's going into the toe now, over the bump there, towards the chase. It seems like he's closer, Joe.
Closer, but I don't think he's close enough. Ooh, a lot of curb there from Koivisto. We saw what that did to Mick Claridge, so he's got to be careful about that. This has allowed Ang to get right up with him. These next 2 corners going to be critical. And
just looking at Andrew Ang's driving line there through the chase, you can just see the wheel marks basically appearing on the circuit because it's just sliding slightly through that corner. Hideki Koivisto is as smooth as can be, and I really think that the throttle control of Koivisto is helping him out there today.
Not too shocked to see a Finn with great throttle control. And once again keeps himself safe from the Midwesterner. This is just a fantastic drive from the number 13.
By the way, see Nicola Cocci has lost a lot of time on Benjamin Soko. It's because of some lap traffic. Paul Beatty was in front of him. Cocci had a lot of trouble passing Paul Beatty. Lost several seconds. So I think that Benjamin Soko will be securing that P2 position in 1.5 lap time.
Yeah, that is certainly going to be the nail in the coffin. And honestly, I don't think Zoko is too worried about Dudillon anymore, especially now that Cocci has dropped off the back of him. He's going to be extremely happy as the white flag flies to simply take a podium at his home track. Michel Dudillon, we were talking about the bad results that he's had thus far. Right now, he's looking like he's going to get this train turned around.
Andrew Ang really giving everything he has. He almost lost to that skyline this time around. He barely kept it out of the wall. He's been really good today with keeping the car just outside of the wall. Now this time in Forrest's elbow he takes a different line. He's a little bit wider than he was in previous laps. He immediately dove to the inside. This time he followed Hideki Koivisto, which is not helping him so far. The gap seems a little bit bigger than it was last time around. Once again he's in the draft of the Finnish rival. The edge is a little bit closer, going towards the kink before the chase. Will once again he get a lot of curb. Now dive it on the inside. You have it. He takes a look, but not able to dive to the inside. He has to stay behind for a little bit longer, Joe.
Yeah, he was a long ways back. I think that was more psychological than a serious move on Koivisto as we jump on board with our leader to give him a little bit of screen time since he hasn't had too much since the start of this race. when his main rivals fell by the wayside. Just getting this car right up to the walls, heading down the mountain through Forest Elbow. Onto the Conrad Straight he comes. The Frenchman has had it all his own way. He didn't start it on the pole, but once he was able to get by McClarridge, that's all she wrote. So the number one, up to the chase he goes. Just 2 more braking events for the Frenchman. A little bit of curb for him as well. Still flirting with danger, still pushing it all the way to the end, over the crest. Murray's corner is the only thing that keeps him from the win here. And as he gets on the binders one last time, around the 90-degree left-hander, the win goes to Michel Dudignon in round 8 of the Lotus 49 World Cup.
I think the only bad spot on this victory there is the fact that he didn't start from pole position, but well deserved from the French driver. Now Benjamin Soko, he had a great race starting from P4, really profiting from the retirements of over Trangerate and McClarridge there, but he comes home in a beautiful P2 position just in front of Nicola Cocci, who will come home in the final position. Now if you go P7 between Hideki Koivisto and Andrew Eng, it's still very, very tight between the two. In Forest Elbow they are one more time, only 3 more braking zones, 2 more braking zones you have, Andrew Eng. He's giving a great run there out of Forest Elbow, Joe.
Oh, this is closer than we've seen him. He should start to reel him in. Are we going to see a move of desperation from Andrew Eng? He's been working on this all race long. I think he lifted a little bit, and he's not going to have a go. Still defensive from Koivisto. It's not over yet, though. Still one opportunity down into Murray's corner. But Koivisto gets a slightly better run. It is going to have to be a deep lunge from Andrew Eng. Another defensive move. Down the middle of the track goes Koivisto. If he can get on the power safely, he is good across the line. Koivisto gets that 7th place.
Oh, Andrew Eng really gave it everything he had, but he clubbed the curb zone a little bit too hard in chase. And that just cost him speed, and that cost him another opportunity to make a move for the P7 position.
Credit to Gary Teal. He's going to finish on the lead lap. In fact, the last car on the lead lap to solidify a 9th place. Damage control for Gary Teal in this championship run. And unfortunately, he's going to be caught by a whole bunch of points by our winner, Michel Dudignon. With that, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. But stick around because we're going to have the official results as well as driver interviews. And on screen, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Bathurst, Mount Panorama Circuit here in Australia. One of the most dangerous and frightening of the races here in the Lotus 49 World Cup that these guys run. But for Michel Dudignan, it was another walk in the park. He did have to fight it off a little bit to try and get up there to the lead, but he does come home with the win, keeping the car whole and being incredibly fast. 26 seconds back to the next car. But again, Ben Zocco probably doesn't care. A second place at his home track has got to be exciting for the Australian. Nicola Cocci, second podium in a row for him. One at Monza, now one at another difficult track here at Bathurst for third. Marco Kika, just off the podium, but racking up those points. Marco's been finding a turn of speed in this car lately. He fended off Billy Bob Wright, who takes a top 5. Matt Wright behind him, no relation, finishes in 6th after starting 10th. A nice gain of positions for him. And Hideki Koivisto as well, climbing from 14th to 7th and fending off the car behind all the way to the line. Andrew Ang only managing to get 8th. Gary Teal is going to be 9th place, just doing some damage control out there after having an incident early on. And Paul Beatty rounds out our top 10.
Yeah, the first driver outside of the top 10 was Telmo Amaral, coming home in P11. He had a good battle at the end with Paul Beatty, just was a little bit too short at the finish. Don Good had a crash, it actually went back out on track and came home in 12th. Johnny Bell had some problems out there today, is classified at 13th. Now Nick Claridge is started the pole position, probably extremely disappointed with these results. Only 14th for him, just in front of Ovid Trengreid, who probably is equally disappointed with his results. Keith Wheeler classified as 16th, just in front of Stefan Lemaire. The last 3 drivers out there today, Giacomo Angeli, Michael Burke, and classified didn't participate, Alexandre Costa.
So we've got a couple drivers to talk to. The first one that we're going to talk to that I'm most excited about getting to interview is Ben Zocco, who gets a podium at his home track. How good does that feel, Ben?
Yeah, that was a good one. Thanks, guys.
Now, obviously, you inherited it a little bit as drivers in front had some issues, but I mean, does it still feel as legitimate to you? Because obviously, you know as well as anybody that just surviving this track is as important as being fast.
Yes, that is the secret to Mount Panorama. So certainly feels legitimate, and I qualified well for a change. So being up there and being able to take advantage of that is how I got on the podium.
Yeah, certainly. We did notice that turn of speed during qualifying, you being up in 4th. I noticed you were joking with Billy Bob post-race saying home track advantage. Would you consider yourself a bit of a specialist here? Or do you feel stronger at this place?
I used to never like Bathurst in racing games. Too narrow, too difficult. But I think something eventually clicked. Racing Skip Barber and of course the Lotus 49 around here. Obviously, the main thing is if you just survive, you'll do well. So that's easy enough for me to do. But yeah, just over time, I've grown to really enjoy it. It's a real thrill on iRacing.
This season's been thrown a bit for a loop with the points being in positions that we're not used to. Newcomers up at the front, fast drivers having issues all throughout the season. What's realistic for you as far as championship goes for finishing position?
I've pretty much given up on this season's championship. Last season without drop rounds, I finished 2nd with very consistent, 4ths and 5ths and that kind of thing. I don't think I'll ever really do better than that. And of course, previous seasons, a couple of wins, a couple of podiums here and there. Yeah, this season I've just had way too much bad luck. So written off, basically. Just out there to have fun.
All right. Well, I'm sure you had fun today. Congratulations on a 2nd place.
Yes, thanks, guys. I'd like to also mention how it was a lot of fun keeping ahead of the Italian stallion there behind me. He put on a lot of pressure the whole race. I could not relax. I was worried that I was pushing too hard, and I even changed my setup from qualifying. I changed the gears to be a bit longer, thinking I'd be behind people, and I didn't really feel comfortable at the start on the different setup. So I felt a little bit vulnerable, but I'm glad I was able to just have enough pace to stay in front of him.
Well, that makes it all the more impressive. That was Ben Zocco, second place finisher, ahead of the driver we're talking to next, that prancing pony that he mentioned, Nicola Cocci, talking to Johan van den Belt.
Yeah, I'm having the Italian stallion with me. Nicola, congratulations with P3 and with a podium position out there today. You started P5, you gained 2 positions. Happy? Good race?
Yeah, I'm happy for the podium, of course. I have a kind of a good race. You know, I did some mistakes here and there, but nothing too big. And this track, it's not easy to survive and to keep a good pace. So yeah, I'm happy overall, and for the podium, even it was just like a result that I was not hoping for.
One thing that I noticed is at the start you had a tight battle immediately with, I think it was Gary Teal behind you, and you actually managed to stay in front of him even though he was side by side with you. Was that really one of the most important parts of your race, like really making sure that the people that started behind you were staying behind you after the start?
Yeah, it's important here. I was lucky enough to start on the left side of the road, so it was easier to me to defend the position. But Gary, it's very, very good when start from a standing start, and he's really good to jump. And I think that I started better than Benjamin, but Gary has started even better than me. So we were kind of crammed on the entry of the first turn, but I had the best line, so it was easier to me to defend the position. And you know, even after a few laps, I gave it to him back. So yeah.
Well, in the end, you come home with a podium. That's 2 races, 2 podiums. You're kind of on a streak here. How confident are you that this is like gonna stay like this going forward?
Well, honestly, today I was the 5th fastest car on track. So I was able to reach the podium only because a couple of guys were not finished the race ahead of me. But I would like to be, you know, on the top 5 on every track. If you know, some people like David Gaspers doesn't show up, because otherwise it's gonna be top 6. Yeah. But yeah, you know, to be around there is a good is a good placing for me, and to be able to get some podiums here and there is you know, it's even better.
Well, once again, congratulations with your podium. You certainly deserved it out there today. There was Nicola Cocci coming home today in P3. Now, in the meantime, Joe, you found another driver to talk with from Australia as well.
Yeah, Paul Beatty is a bit of a newcomer to the series. We haven't seen him racing in here long, and yet he's made his presence known. So, Paul, I have to ask, having started 19th, and hey, we hear you.
Oh, hello.
Hey, this is Joe Peak with GSRC. You started 19th and you finished with a top 10. As someone a bit new to the car, are you pleased with that?
Oh, I'm so happy. I was never happier to be lapped as well, because Telmo was clearly faster than me, and I was seeing the time come down and down. I'm just thinking, hold it together to the last Forest Elbow and I might just do it. And that was something else. I just wanted to keep it clean. I know it was slow, but I thought if I keep it clean, I've got some sort of a chance of a good finish.
Well, even your fellow Australian Ben Zocco was saying similar, that survival is the key around here. Now, we're going to a bit of a different track, also quite a bit of elevation change next week at Laguna Seca. What do you think is realistic there? Is another top 10 possible for you?
I don't. If I do, it'll be this. I did better. I think Monza was a fair top 10. I had a bit of. I had comparable pace with Telmo there. I think Laguna Seca is another one of those tracks that that corkscrew, man. Why can't they just get Herman Tilke to straighten that track out a bit?
Oh, you'd have a lot of angry drivers if they sit Herman Tilke on Laguna Seca, I think.
Hey, guys, I'm loving watching your coverage of these races. It's fantastic.
Well, thank you very much. We're glad you're enjoying it. We're glad seeing more people hop into the 49. It's a car very close to my heart. What made you decide to try and drive this machine?
Because it's difficult and it's a proper car. There's no flappy paddles, ABS, traction control, anything. But it's a very good teacher, because if you get it wrong, you're picking your teeth out of a hedge. When you get it right, it's very satisfying.
I can certainly concur on that one. It is incredibly a feel-good situation when you nail a lap in this car. Well, we're glad you've come and joined us, and thank you so much for the compliments. We hope to see you more in these races.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks very much, guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
That was Paul Beatty, 10th place finisher here today at Bathurst. And unfortunately, we're out of time, so we've got to close up today. And a big thank you both to Ben Zocco and the Lotus 49 community for coming back each and every season and asking GSRC to broadcast them. We really enjoy getting to do it, as this is such a unique car. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast, and you can see them listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go out to Eric Echolm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today. Johan, glad to have him back. Abjed and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. We've also got a big red button on our YouTube page. Head on over there, click that. It says subscribe, and we'll do exactly that. You won't miss a moment, as you'll get all the iRacing or all the GSRC videos in your YouTube feed. Next race, we mentioned it before. We are going out to California for Laguna Seca. That'll be Saturday, August 11th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.